Yes, they're second from height, but they're not being focused. And you do not want to be second from height because you will be focused. Now we're taking a look at Nate and Mongrel here. Nate on the top side of your screen, Mongrel on the bottom. Mongrel makes a play for height. He's going to lay down some big-time beams. And now we have Mongrel and Tayson in height. What a big-time play using that shockwave, Sundown.
Yeah, and that's one of the benefit of being at the Mythic POI and holding those shockwaves till late. Yes, that team was able to hold top in the high zone, but only for so long. And some brilliant shots coming out from Mongrel there, able to execute and get a huge down on the Kesniks. Now they have complete control of the high ground. The question is, what can Nate do on the low ground, and how many eliminations can he steal away here as a solo? You can see Kesniks going down, but Nate says, I'm not going down without a fight. He gets one, he gets two. I believe only one of those was his actual one. He says, no, I'll make a third, but instead gets cleaned up in the box-to-box, doesn't switch over in time to the AR. So now it's all about the Stark Industries crew. You have Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson. 11 eliminations so far. High ground to their name. They have the full trio, and they should just be able to walk this one over the finish line.
All they have to do is hold on to the height, and I believe they did lose it right there. They're going to go ahead and get somebody knocked down as we have everybody that's still up from this trios. Mongrel picks up an Elim right now. It is a top 3 situation. Mongrel picks up another one and gets the Victory Royale. It's a trio splash screen of Victory Royale, and this 9th place team gets their way up the charts right here, Sundown. What a big-time finish from this squad.
You talk about those pop-off games, 25 points for the Victory Royale, but when you have a trio as good as theirs, you're just pouring on the points with those 15 eliminations. We're going to throw it on back to the desk. Shio, Reese, Zeke, take it away, gents.
Thank you so much, Sundown. Guys, what a game. Mongrel coming out big. Hey, who thought Mongrel was washed? Not me. Okay? He's still here. He's still here to play. I got you guys with that one. What an incredible game. Shy, I mean, that was dope. That was clinical.
It was clinical, but it was also kind of like gritty, right? It wasn't the most cleanest thing, but the shots were hitting so hard, right? Just the way Mongrel was kind of elegant, but at the same time, elegant with steel-toed boots. Like, if you got anywhere near him, you're getting a kick straight in the face. It's like not possible what he does, but he keeps doing it consistently. It's just crazy to watch, and because of it, you just saw how lethal he was in that end game. Just got 7 eliminations total, I believe, and 3 of those were all the way at the very, very night portions of that game.
That's right, that's right. Now, guys, let's take a look at the standings. The big question on my mind is, where are Mongrel after that game? And, of course, the next one was Reese's prediction. Kesniks, Forziar, and Nate, they're still holding down. They said, Reese, we will not disappoint you, my friend. However, Mongrel, I believe this is Mitro F1 through F4, and Tayson are coming up big. But look at this, guys. This point differential here from 1st to 5th, not that big of a spread, huh, Shy?
Yeah, kind of ebb and flowy. If this was kind of like a stock we were following, really high, a little bit of a crash on that next game that we just watched beforehand. But off of this one, these guys are on their secondary engines. I'm combining analogies, but they're now even more so ahead. It's not a 1-point differential. Past that on the second page, though, that spread is also evening out even more, 43 to 32. It's getting wide here, Reese.
I know a bit of a difference between 6th and 10th, but one of the teams that I want to look at is in 9th place, Flick, Anas, and Thomas HD. Didn't perform too well in their first 2 games. However, that game, we probably didn't see is them picking up 11 eliminations and placing 4th. So a huge game for them, and that's really shot them up the leaderboards into that 9th place slot.
Yeah, and past that too, from 15th, we're going to be going on, I think, maybe to the next page as well. 25 is the points to be at for top 15. Hellraiser, Jamside, and Letwork are holding that one down. These guys are scary if you ever see them in an endgame beside you box to box. Over here towards the back half, looking at people who want to get into that top 15, points are going up by 5 per game. So we're seeing that maybe by the end of the 2 days, we have 60 points to be able to get towards that, top slot to be able to qualify for heats. We'll see if that is the case. So far, though, good games overall.
Yeah, man. And we're only 3 games in, right? Again, we can't stress this enough. We've got 6 games today, another 6 games tomorrow. Now, boys, we got to run that game back. We got to understand how Mongrel and his trio led themselves to victory. So, guys, break this down for us.
Indeed, we shall. I think Mongrel, the way that he went with endgame, was all kind of about his movement and the pumps that he, kind of led with all throughout. But it started off in the early game, Reese.
Yeah, you can see he lands to the side of this chest here, immediately landing on that green pump, and immediately picks up the elimination on Lanuf straight away. He'd already knocked his own teammate Tayson, and you can see all of the other players land on a single guaranteed chest, right? This ends up in a really, really scuffed fight, and you guys have to be prepared when this is going to happen. All these pro players, they're the best at fighting in these simple basics. The movement, you can see him ducking, crouching to the right, still picking up that shot there with a fantastic headshot.
We can see that movement actually translate all towards the end game, but that was just the first 2 players that Mongrel picked up at Stark Industries. Also, the game these guys win is the first time they're really getting contested today, so that's kind of interesting to see, kind of a reverse pattern. But for Mongrel, the third pickup was going to be coming in just a sec. He starts the revival process for 2 of his teammates. Extra player was there, could hear that, baits him all the way up, blocks him off with the stairs, past that, once again, staying on the edges of boxes where he has that right-hand peek, pulls out multiple layers between him and Jay, all the way the guy was just trying to get in, and then once that fight actually broke down, it got even more interesting.
You can see he just boxed him up. This is his ramp. He doesn't want to flip it. He's going to cause a 50-50, so he goes around the side, edits that window, and gets a fantastic 100 pump off. That finishes the fight for them, so they're now out. They've owned this drop spot. They've won the drop spot, and are this other team going to be contesting? Is Jaspy's team going to be coming back here in the future games? Is it worth it? Because they were doing really, really well on the leaderboards. They still are, but they ended up getting eliminated because of that questionable drop.
Yeah, I mean, Jasper will be kind of the key to the puzzle, but it was Mongrel who ended up winning off that game once again. Pumps to start it off, Pumps to seal that story. So 7 in total for him individually. His teammates also had a few. Good game. Let's see if they can actually catch up to the people, the Grizzly squad, who's in first place.
Guys, the mechanical prowess from Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson. You'll love to see it. Now, guys, we are going to need to cool down after that game, so we're going to do a step away, and when we come back, we'll have the last 3 games from Europe here in the Fortnite Champions Series. Stay tuned. We'll see you guys in just a little bit. up, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to more action here in the Fortnite Champion Series. I'm your boy Zeke. We got Shy Wager and Reese here on the analyst desk. We're already 3 games deep here in EU on the first day. And of course, you know what time it is. That's right, we're getting right back into the action. So let's get ready to send it over to Sancho and Sundown to take us into game number 4. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Zeke, Shio, and Reese, and it is time here for Game 4. I am Sancho West alongside with Sundown, breaking all the action here. We got our first frame of 6. Lunev's Trio is currently in 6th place and was the last team to qualify. Throughout all competitive Fortnite, we've seen these Cinderella stories, these people barely squeaking through, coming all the way from the back of the pack, being number 1. So Lunev trying to do that and getting some nice beams here, and it looks like did they win Stark's Industries, Sundown, or did they just split this? I gotta take a look.
Well, it looks like they got at least 2 of the eliminations. We're going to catch a replay real quick. We're over on the side here. You can see Hellraiser with Gemside and Letwick, and Gemside has been doing a really good job of picking off the key members of Trios over the past couple of games. He's gotten key eliminations, but right now he's going to be taken down by Airwalks, who's then immediately then going to turn it around and be taken down himself. Hellraiser doing a little bit to his name there, raising as much heck as he can and taking down 2 there, getting a little emote through, and also going to be able to stick the revive before Gemside gets taken all the way down. Now flipping on over, we have Jimpin against some of the N10 players. It's Cartoon and him. It's a 2v1 by the look of the fight. Trying to get it resolved, going to swap over the pickaxe and look to knock him down to their level right now. That'll be the conclusion, but not quite able to find the setup for the alley-oop for the charged shotgun. You can hear the snakes in the grass trying to find that last shot. We talked about just how strong it can be, particularly in these early fights, but you are weak in those box-to-box sides, and Cartoon catches a huge pump shot there, but the 79 going through. They'll clean that one up. Jimpin will go down, and the immediate shakedown to try and find the teammate who doesn't seem to be anywhere even remotely near.
No, he definitely dipped, and it seems like Cartoon and Kenzex and Florini have been having battles between, placements near close to each other. That was the battle between 30 and 31st as Jimpin and Miro and Bevies all go down. So one of the things I want to bring up is how important, the opening moments of an engagement are. We were talking about a razor-thin margin of error. At Mongrel, we saw in that replay package that our analyst desk broke down. They literally 50-50 that guaranteed chess. And that 50-50 could have easily gone south. Mongrel could have been easily taken out by Jaspe. A one-pump shotgun. Anything. I mean, Mongrel was down to 60 HP. And to have all that butterfly effect to the end game, that was a huge win right there. But the one thing about it, Sundown, as we're seeing Browner, Toos, and Tomzy, seeming to be the most popular spot in EU and streaming stacks, is that Mongrel and Mitro, they're known to dominate here in these weekly finals. What they do is going to be ultimately measured what they do in the grand finals, and that anything short of a grand finals high placement is going to be, not what they expect. The entire internet is going to be like, wow, they fell off. You know what I mean? So that pressure is going to be at an all-time high for such a high-tier squad. But Toos, Tomzy, and Browner, like I mentioned, a newly squad, kind of started off the day really slow, are now beginning to rack up the points here with 22.
Yeah, and they got a pair of eliminations on different squads going over, so already 3 eliminations coming through. And I believe this game, at least a portion of that crew went down. We saw the 2 eliminations from Jasper and his team off of the start. You can also see a little bit of action going on Twitter as Tayson is asking Jasper just how he lands oh so well. So you can guess that 50-50 might not have gone their way, but again, we kind of talked about it. If you're as good as Mitro, Tayson, and Mongrel, is it really worth 50-50ing one of those chests off of the start? Is it really worth going down in that circumstance? But Rotary lining up a great shot on Bevies, not worrying about the headshot because he saw that player had just recently been rebooted. And this is something you see a little bit more often in trios and squads when reboots are more common. Players will camp in the storm. They'll wait, and they'll let you get that guaranteed reboot, knowing you're able to then capitalize on it afterward. And Rotary, while going down there, he'll at least be able to eke out 1 extra point. Milo will convert on it, but Jimpin and Bevies have already been down. That reboot van, having been used recently, will be on cooldown as well. So not sure if Milo will be willing to kind of wait out the storm and wait for that to go off. being in Slurpy Swamps gives him the benefit of having that extra health regen and so many fishing spots and so many barrels nearby where you could kind of wait. But, I mean, we've seen the zone pull northwest time and time again so far this game, and it's continuing to kind of pull up and away from them.
And I think that's what's hurting Kirachi and Stormy Right and Rotary. I mean, they've been having to make these long rotations, almost coast-to-coast rotations from south all the way up north, and that's affecting their consistent play. It's totally inconsistent. We've been watching them throughout this entire broadcast having these gatekeeping fights, these storm fights, and we're taking a look here at Mongrel, who seems to be all alone. Mongrel, coming out of Stark's Industry, now has this amazing base that's right next to us. I'm trying to take a look here. Yes, it is true. Mongrel, by himself, the second place team here in Game 4 with only 59 points, all by themselves. And again, across all regions, only 4 teams have secured 15 elims in one game. And that was the pop-off games that we've been seeing here, Sundown.
Yeah, and we kind of talk about it. It's the potential for trios because so many people funnel into the end. If you are able to have a complete control and either a ton of people drop into that low ground and you're the one who really just capitalizes on all of it, or you're able to execute on a complete high ground take, you can generally be able to do something. Mongrel looking for some tags here on the player who just shockwaved over, knowing it's an opportunity for somebody who can't shoot back at him, but not quite able to find it. And once the player is hidden, that excess of metal that they're building out on the bridge, I don't think you want to get involved. But riding over the hill right here, we have our first place team currently. It's Nate, Kezix, and 4ZR, the French/Swiss trio, climbing in, but currently underneath Storm Surge, and they're the only team who will be pressured by this. So they're going to have to go look for tags to try and shift that pressure onto somebody else. Again, 70 people is the number you see. So in that top left-hand corner, 73 people are up. These are the 3 who need to get going and need to find some form of damage, and they are more than capable of doing so.
Absolutely. These are one of the 2 of the 4 teams that are putting 15 elims. The other squad is Mongrel. So this trio of Nate, 4ZR, and Kezix are doing a lot of it, and Dovin goes down. It's always just a matter of time before the constriction begins and the HP gets doled out. But look on your right, seeing that little mini map. Look at all the arrows looking into this fight. And that's going to be a strong opportunity. I feel that 4ZR squad has been having really clean rotations from Sweaty Sands, making their way up into Salty Springs. You get into some vehicles, and essentially you get almost 2 free POIs. But I'm thinking because other places are becoming contested, other places are being rough, and a lot of other teams looking for an opportunity to find a footing. As you see here, a lot of teams are now in Salty Springs. And because the zone is there, 4ZR squad's not going to have a clean rotation. But here we go, Sundown. We got ourselves a nice replay.
Yeah, and we're going to see what happened at that initial spike. And Jaspe, just such a great drop right there into Tayson. I don't know if you saw that. Mitro immediately is taken out by Leno. But Jaspe had pretty much the perfect line through the window and just bunny hopped right in front of Tayson and stole away that shotgun. Then they were able to close it out, take the pickaxes, and then Mongrel grabs what he can, grabs the valet and says, nope, out of here, getting in, stealing away that Tony Stark car and saying, I'm just going to rotate, get as much as I can, try and get into the late game. But it's going to be that much more difficult. It's all going to be on his shoulders. We know he's capable of it, but it's that much harder in trios, particularly when you don't get any opportunity to loot. He's going to be forced into a complete scavenger route, which is that much more inefficient this season. So now, over on board with one of the other favorites in Titans, we have Mr. Savage, Lecce, and Benji Fishy just posted up, and they are dead center of this zone.
Dead center and dead center are basically here with 11th place, or they're almost have an opportunity to vault themselves into the top 10. Again, the top 15 qualify into the heats. This is going to be a 2-day event. We're already into game 4 of the 6. Tomorrow, another 6 games will be played. It'll be interesting to see what kind of changes. Already Matzo, Amplify, ADN taking up a victory royale, and they were able to do that with only 2 of the trios up. So ADN and Matzo Amplify, this is where they land. This is what they do best. And actually, they did not qualify for the warm-ups. So they're doing really well right now. They just missed warm-ups by 1 point. So for Matzo and Amplify and ADN to make those adjustments, that is a key factor here, especially going to day 2. And this is, again, the opening week. It's a marathon of FNCS trios, and you got to have the stamina. You got to have the mental fortitude to be able to withstand that. And I'm going to be interested in keeping an eye on social media, Sundown, if who's going to decide to switch it up, who's going to pick somebody else's trio, who's going to decide maybe I should pick them up, maybe it's someone that eliminated me. There's so many things, and thank goodness we have things like Shio and Reese who are able to break down these things, because it's hard to keep up sometimes.
Yeah, things are people like Shio and Reese. They're fantastic analysts and individuals, but now hopping on board here, Sammy, Kluji, and Dennis pinned against the side here. There is one late rotator. You see that blue triangle in the bottom right-hand corner there. The 60-second players alive. Oh, they're going to see him right now. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have built it all and just try and kept the storm distance there. That's Milo going down. They've had a tough time. But right now, the BTS and Aeon trio kind of pinned against the storm, and they're in a difficult spot here because it doesn't look like they have a ton of mats either from the rest of their team.
Not at all. It feels like anyone coming from the southwest side has been having a bad time today, and that's how the cookie crumbles. We're taking a look again at this trio of Snap and Waves, I think is Snap, Miro's dog, or Milo's dog, Miro's dog. They had coming from that south area as well, and they're still up and they're still doing well. As we're seeing, this is going to be an interesting in-game. It's not in Weeping Woods. It's going to be another one where there's a little like baby elevations. Not too crazy. Mainly it's going to be focused on builds. You see, there's the elevation I'm talking about. You already see Noah Riley, Aqua, and Raison sitting up there. Actually, that squad has a lot to work on as Benji gets taken down by Snap Miro's dog with a bite. And oh my goodness, that's going to be a big-time factor. They have to hope Benji, Savage, and Lechi have to do their best to not draw the gaze of the lobby beams, because that lobby beams will come through and looks like they're all going to have that opportunity to get Benji's back on his feet. And already this squad is trying to do their best to get inside that top 10. But man, a sigh of relief has to happen, and that is why you have to build kind of a base to kind of make people, give yourself some breathing room to get up that revive. But oh my goodness, Sundown, that was so close. That could have gone south so quickly considering that they're center.
I just don't know where he took the damage from. Like, it seemed like he had been relatively full HP. I didn't see a sniper coming from that team or a bullet going through. So unless he got 3-2 under, he was exposed real quick. Real interesting play down there, but it's going to force them to burn a lot of their utility in an area where they don't really want him to. You can see iDrop trying to, again, guarantee the maximum amount of damage onto that down body. Unfortunately, only going to hit a 77 instead, and they're going to be under pressure. They're still below Storm Surge, so when we talk about kind of min-maxing and how every little thing matters, iDrop not having the ability to line up that perfect pump headshot on the down body means that going into this next circle, they're going to be forced to pressure and find somebody else. So we talk about having to do all of the little things right. Well, when you're playing in that 0.01%, when you're playing in the lobbies with the Mongrels, with the Benji Fishies, with the Riflers of the world and of EU, you can't afford to let even the smallest amount of damage slip, because right now, Jachu, Paco, and Advice underneath the threshold and being forced, and they say, well, don't worry about that, because Denise is about to be underneath our crash pad. Brilliantly executed there. Drops him straight down and picks it up. But again, I don't want to harp on it time and time over, but they don't take the time to line up the perfect headshot, and they're still underneath Storm Surge threshold despite picking up that elimination. That's not something you can afford to do when you down somebody and you have them in your box. Take the extra second, line up the shot, and get the bonus damage.
Razor thin HP gain is huge. Benji picks up an Elam. Floki takes out Thomas HD. As now they clean this up, and they are 107 above. And you know what? Also, another thing I want to mention here, it's scary. Yeah, you can have gas cans, but you got to be careful. A beam goes in there, something happens, a shot, and boom, that whole place is going to be ignited, and that huge explosion is going to do a lot of damage. So the risk factor is there. I don't know if it's worth it, but iDrop and his squad are making their way up their leaderboards. This trio is doing very, very well, and they're using this natural terrain of this basement as a way to protect themselves and kind of save on mats. And we talked about it. Every HP factor, every tag matters, and they're doing a great job of saving their resources. But now, because they get a max pull in this half in and half out, they're going to do what this technique is, a mega bounce situation. Putting down the bounce pad and throwing down a shockwave, and they're going to vault their way across. And with that kind of technique, Sundown, that's going to get them all the way across to the safe zone, because that mega bounce is sweet.
Yeah, it maintains the momentum and it builds it up when you're just putting that singular bouncer going through. The shockwave forces you to break the build, but you keep that bounce pad momentum and, of course, have the fall damage immunity going through. Storm Surge, only one more player will need to fall here. These players well above it. And it's Miro picking up Kha'Zix in a full elimination. That's not the trio going down yet because there's still 19 remaining. However, that first place trio will be at least one man down. And they've been relatively quiet this game. So some good opportunities here for some potential leaderboard vaulting or at least closing in the gap, because don't forget, coming into this game, they were 10 points clear of everyone else. But right now, we have Aqua, Noah, and Rezon. And the one thing to note here is very, very, very little white HP on both Noah or Rezon. If any amount of chip damage ends up breaking their shields and they get focused, they will go down to just one singular bullet from an AR.
That they have to be wary of the storm right now. It's going to pull back through through Salty Springs towards the Sweaty Sands direction. And one thing you got to mention is this team right now, they're a contestant in Doom's domain, so they didn't have to travel far to the spot. So they do have some mobility with that shockwave, but much importantly, they have front of zone, and they're going to keep moving in as Savage picks up an Elim on Paco. But Storm Surge is a factor here. They're going to have to solve this puzzle really quickly here in about a minute. But all it takes is a couple of tags as Thomas HC picks up one, and actually they're going to go for height. Aqua goes for height with one shockwave, and he has it here as it was two in his trio holding it. This is going to be a big-time factor because if you can hold on to height going into the 6th, the 7th, and 8th zone, you can have the ability to do really well and getting some big-time elims. And Toos goes down at the right moment for Aqua, but Noah and Reason are still looking for that HP that Sundown was mentioning.
And Toos whiffs a huge charge shotgun shot, and Aqua says, I'm a world champion, an FNCS champion for a reason. Turns it around and finds a huge 200 shot, and now his teammate Reason trying to get up and provide Aqua with some cover, but I think Aqua going for high ground was a throw. They don't have enough mats from the rest of their team to really hold it in pressure. They didn't have the white HP to go up and challenge, and with only the singular shockwave, they're going to have to burn so much, and they can't commit to going up, so now they're going to be dropping down with even less effective HP than they had before. No mats left, so it's all about what Aqua can do on the backside. He's more than capable of it, but he can't take a storm tick, so won't have that advantage for him. Has to stay ahead of it, and there's the zone dropping it down. It's all going to be on Noah Riley's back, and we're into the position where every single trio who goes down will give you an additional placement point. They will go out at 13th, so only 3 points coming through for them there. And you can see as we hop onto the wide, we have a number of players on the low ground, in the mid ground tarp, but up on the high ground and just raining down shots right now is the Serenity player. We're going to hop on board here with Wake, Astro SMG, OT Exponential, and Enterprise Mexi, who are currently sitting on one of those mid ground tarps. Browner, Lanouf, and Merchant are still just raining down shots though.
Raining down the shots, and they're trying to rain up the leaderboard at the moment here. I've never experienced this situation that's happening, unfolding right now, as everybody and all the shots are going low. And being on the low ground, yes, it's chaotic, but you have an opportunity to rack up so many elims, especially if you're in front of zone. The classic turn and burn, getting that right side, that strong peak action, and you're seeing that right now. Nice beams right there as Astro gets Nate. Nate goes down. Nate actually gets Benji. Big names are going down left and right. So it's right now Astro and this trio able to get up as they do lose Mex. Exponential going back and forth, but now Astro is the lone dog as gets Lunif. This dog has some still fight in them. It's going back and forth. 3 elims going right now for Astro. It's a top 14 players up, top 7 situation. Every point is crucial right now as they're getting into the 47-point mark, and that's going to get them closer and closer to a top 10 finish.
So the only detrimental factor here is he has no builds. He has 3 shockwaves and a bouncer. Just found a legendary shotgun, using the shockwave to actually get back into some of his own builds. Now he gets thrown around, have no clue which direction he's pointing. Somehow manages to find 1 elim, which is a huge swing for him. Getting that pushed him forward 1 through. It was a straight elim going through, a nice 2-point swing, pushing him into the top 5. But that high ground is just completely uncontested. They are so far up and above that even the shockwave attempt can't go. All the action is on the low ground, but the team sitting up on high ground completely uncontested, going to just be able to rain down these shots. And as the zone finally moves out and away from these old builds, everyone on the low ground is just going to be free for the picking.
Savage does go down here, and we're seeing how it all is unfolding right here. Your top right and bottom right are the low ground. Up at height, is you're taking a look here, is Day and his trio. Serenity players holding it very strong now. It's just a matter of moments as they go down there. You see the harpoons, and what an aggressive play and aggressive push, but it wasn't enough. The Aikido throw, reversal card, throw down by Vettel, and the trio walks away. Eye drop. Oh my goodness, 73 points here, and the victory royale in game 4.
I don't know why they did that. That doesn't make sense to me. With that, you had the high ground advantage. It might have been they were out of mats and they didn't really have the opportunity to keep going through, but they'd held high ground and were going back over the builds, and the other team were just single boxing out and hip to hip the entire time. The last thing you want to do is drop down into a box with 3 other players who are waiting for the zone to close, right? It's not like they're looking out and taking peek shots at you. Like, they're eventually going to have to go. Like, that seems like a weird time to kind of force that fight.
Absolutely, but we got Zeke, Reese, and Shio to break it all down for us. Intense action here, folks. What you got for us, fellas?
Sometimes, listen, things happen. People make mistakes. We are all only human, and that's okay. Shy, Reese, how'd you guys feel about that game?
Listen, getting to that point with iDrop right all the way towards the end, no matter where you are on what layer, it is very difficult. And by that time, you sometimes used up all your resources, and even the resource you can't see, mental energy. So you make mistakes sometimes, or weird things happen. You can never predict how an end game goes.
And I want to take it from another point, because I don't know if it was a mistake as well. These guys are on high ground. Maybe they didn't have any materials, right? It's coming close to that 9th zone closing. Maybe no materials. Maybe they didn't have any white heals. They didn't have a bandy cannon, no floppers, and there's 3 players alive. You see the placement points come through, so they know that they're the second last trio alive. 2v3, guys on low ground. Are they going to be able to win it? Going to just have to make that cycle play and go for it.
Yeah, man, on top of those still. Zeke, look at this.
Oh, man. Dude, I was going to say, again, Reese, they're still here. They're still holding strong. No. But after that game, Vettel dropped, and Stursix, they're now in that second place spot. Now, it is the top 15 that will move on, but again, guys, I don't know how they're doing it. Kezix, Borzard, Nate, they're still just pushing that lead they started the day with.
Indeed. And you can see over in 10th place, right? Benji Fishy, Mr. Savage, and Lecce. Team who is, like we were talking about earlier, in the first game, dominated off spawn. They absolutely obliterated Aqua, Rezon, and Noah Riley off spawn immediately. But has that been playing out well for them since? This is a team who has the complete potential to be first and is currently sitting in 10th place.
Consistency does matter, but you got to remember it's a 2-day overall format. Halfway through is usually game 3 and 4, but we're like technically before half, right? For the grand scheme of things in round 3. So we have to see how these off-spawn fights will look out overall. In first place, though, being that high, having that much of a gap, and being this consistent, that Grizzly trio is looking really, really good, really, really comfortable. Maybe they get someone to contest them. Who knows? Over here, though, on this next page, 16th to 20th, once again, the points are starting to get a little bit slower in getting accrued, because that's because of the fact that there's multiple teams now starting to do well. It's not just the same teams that are kind of rising through the ranks.
Indeed, and you can see in 19th place, Raxo, Kami, and Artor. This was actually my second pick, gentlemen, right? Second pick. So These team are guys who are landing uncontested on the right-hand side of the map, doing a large split, right? I've seen them do really, really well in the warm-up cup and previously, so I'm still thinking they can pop off too. My hope is on them.
That's right. I think, Shai, the big takeaway here is this is the first game, like you mentioned. We still have 6 games tomorrow, right? We'll have the 6 to put under our belt today. A nice mental reset with tomorrow's games on that. Now, guys, talk to me about what you have pulled for us for the topic of today.
Let's check it out. From that 7th, 8th zone, we saw a lot of Astro, what he was doing in his box, but Mr. Savage also had a really nice performance in this specific game, towards the end game, and we're going to talk about how a solo can lead you to get so many points and actually affect your tournament in a very positive way.
Indeed, you can see right now they're not in a great position at all, right? Savage low on HP and managed to pick up a fantastic elimination there with a great flick. And at this point, you can see all of his teammates are still alive, right? They're shockwaving through that first moving zone, getting them moving, getting them alive, right? Lecce, you can see in the bottom, taking damage, and he actually goes down, right? So it's just Benji and Mr. Savage left alive at this moment.
Yeah, right now it's just Benji and Mr. Savage. They're trying to move together during low ground, trying to make sure that even though they're one teammate down, everything looks good, but then things start to get scary when there's no more mats available. Benji takes a big shot. It's unfortunate, and then right here, Savage has to make a decision. Pause moment. Towards the left, Benji's body about to get eliminated. Towards the right, there's Nate. He could go for a safe shot there, or go straight ahead and go for a free elim. What he chooses to do is wrap around with Nate, go for the free shot, doesn't actually get it, but he finds another body, gets some loot. It's a bandaged bazooka, at the same time gets some bouncers. With these bouncers, he actually clutches up even more placement. Pay attention to the top left. 7 trios left alive. Each time one goes down, Savage gets points. Their trios alive working as 3-man teams who are not doing as much as Savage, getting taken out before he actually does. Here's that moment. Right here, nowhere else to go. He goes for a double bouncer combination way out in the zone and then back in, and I think survives 1 trio takedown. No, not just 1. 2 in total before he goes down and gets free placement points to actually make sure that over this 2-day format, his team stays up top, even though they were down that game.
Indeed. And if you took close notice, while Benji Fishy went down, they had 39 points, right? 39 points, but they finished on 45. So it's that play, all that solo play just by Savage, enabled them to grab another 6 points, right? And if they did that every single game across the 12 games, they're going to come out really, really strong.
Guys, Mr. Savage, more like Mr. Salvage that game on the shoulders by himself, running it through. And again, this is what we're going to be talking about over the next 4 weeks of competition, right? It's trios, but it doesn't matter. As long as there's even one player left, they can change everything. With that being said, we're getting ready to hop into our next game of the day. We only have 2 left here for Europe, gentlemen. What do we expect? With 2 games left, do we think... we think Reese's team is just going to keep going? Are they going to get dethroned?
Yes.
Shy, what are your thoughts?
Yes.
This is the expectation pool, right? It was this small when we started everything off. But now, after watching Savage and everyone else, boom, right? There's so many different things we can look at. That entire pool of information, you're watching one high ground trio pop off. Meanwhile, Savage is doing a solo clutch, right? This is happening more and more every game. Teams are getting more fluid. They're wanting to do more. I mean, I hope Reese stays on top, but things could switch up.
Well,
guys, we'll see. We'll see. Let's get ready to send it over to our next game. Sundown. Sancho, take us in, friends.
All right, it is game 5, and I don't hope that Reese continues his streak. I hope his trio falls. But one thing is interesting, though, to bring up is Doom's Domain and Stark Industry. Those teams that have been fighting there, we're seeing so much volatile movement in the leaderboard. We're seeing Mongrel and Tayson and Mitro unable to pick up some crucial points because they went down early because Mongrel was all by himself. And on the flip side, at Doom's Domain, Benji's trio has been so volatile on the leaderboards, coming in, finishing 5th, 4th, but in the couple of last 2 games, finishing 30 and 31st. So we're seeing sometimes, playing for those highly contested vaults, the POIs, sometimes they giveth and sometimes they taketh. And if you look at the historical, matches throughout those times, you're seeing that people will have these kind of lulls or those 50-50 games where they go out in those high numbers, but then they'll have those pop-off games. And in a 12-game set, can you do it multiple times is going to be that key question. And again, this is day 1 and we still have day 2. And this is Reese's pick as 4ZR's trio. And this is really nice here. Totally uncontested.
Completely uncontested over in Sweaty Sands. And there's been a couple of analysis done across the community about whether or not it's better to be able to alpha up one of those mythic POIs or getting a larger POI uncontested. And generally it seems like it's leaned to be about 70-30 towards the uncontested major POI being better than you getting a mythic POI, say 6 out of every 10 games, because one of it, like a trio cash cups or a solo cash cup or kind of the other competitions revolve around the 10 game kind of format rather than the 12 game. So if you're able to get it about like 75% of the time, you're still generally going to lose out in not all circumstances, but most circumstances to a trio who's completely uncontested, just because those couple of games where you're not able to really effectively get out there and make use of the weapons really end up holding you back. But right now on board here with the Doom's Domain fight, we've talked about it, just the Titans who are over here between Aqua, Reza, Noah Riley, Fletchy, Savage, and Benji Fishy. Right now Noah, though, going to work, and he's going to have to make it a clutch himself, because both Aqua and Raison have been taken out. We've already seen them capable of coming up with a 1v3 clutch. It was Raison last time. Will it be Noah this time, or will they be able to close out? A huge 120 coming through, but not able to find the follow-up. That is so unfortunate. He had a window where he could have immediately taken that fight and closed it down. It is just the 1v1, and it is Savage versus Noah Riley, one of the oldest guard against kind of some new blood, who's playing much more aggressive, and Noah Riley takes him out and cleans it up. He says, Doom's domain? Nah, it's our domain. Gets the reboot cards. He's going to get his squad members back up. 3 points going over to them, and more importantly, a quick resolution to the Mythic POI fight.
It's like 3 points, underlined, bold, putting on a poster. Those are big-time 3 points, and what's been a big factor for them as well, Sundown, is they have the ability to essentially go back to the vault and kind of replenish everything they took out of that fight. All the mat resources, there's so much metal inside that vault, and they have the ability to find shields, a bandage cannon, all those kinds of things allow them to get back into full strength. The only big factor as well in Doom's domain is you got to be careful for third parties, but Kiriachi sets up an ambush player outside the gas station here north of the Slurp factory in Kiriachi Rotary. And looks like Stormy, they're going to have a better way this time around. We've been seeing this entire time, the inconsistent placements, the late fights, the slow rotations, the storm fights, and all those things going to this against this trio's favor. But now they're coming up on top.
Yeah, and it looks like, unfortunately, Stormy are unable to connect the game that way, so they're going to be fighting with just the two of them there. But now hopping on board here, we can see Lanouf, Jaspe, and Moraine over on the side. I believe this is towards Stark on the northern end there. Or no, I'm just on the southern end, excuse me. You can see 3 eliminations coming out from Lanouf, and we don't see anyone from Taste and Mongrel Mitro nearby, which can be safe to assume they're able to win that off-spawn fight again, and we've talked about it, just how key these are. I mean, Jaspe, Moraine, and Lanouf have controlled high ground so efficiently over the course of the game, and it gets them with the exploding vehicle going through Mongrel with next to no HP. You can see the crossfire being enacted, and if you're able to kind of game plan a little bit more effectively, get a little bit of the better drops off of the start, we've now seen twice, arguably one of the strongest and most feared trios in the world, be completely forced out of their drop spot by Jaspe, Moraine, and Lanouf. And I think what's been honestly more important is the fact that this is a trio who opted to go contest them there, and it's not like they were doing bad beforehand. They were controlling high ground and making it into the end games, and now they're like, you know what? Let's go fight them.
Yeah, and that's a battle between 5th place and 4th place. They coming into this matchup here tied at 59 points. And what was interesting, if you remember what happened in Game 4, Mongrel was able to get away with that whiplash. But now the adjustments come out, in-game adjustments happening, and Lunef and Moraine and Jaspe were able to cut that off and blow up Tony Stark's whiplash. We're right here, we're seeing the previous game's winner here of Vettel and Star6 and iDrop, who had a very clutch performance here in securing the victory royale from the low ground. A lot of questions were asked, what happened to that team of Hyde that day? I mean, it's hard to say, but sometimes when you're in this high-pressure situation, I mean, you had to feel confident going down. They went for the surprise harpoon. They saw the fresh builds, and usually that is a great play to make with the harpoon. And unfortunately, right now, they're having some car troubles as they're going to they have to be careful. We already saw the explosion on Mongrel's whiplash, and that bear truck may go down. But look at this. What a crazy situation up here in terms of just having this fake bases coming out. I mean, we have seen that strategy as well, but you have so many builds coming out here from this Build by Legends trio.
Yeah, and you can see them trying to, generally when you see ramps like that, what that signifies is there was at least a player who's taking pop shots on the opposite side, because you don't want to move down one of those giant rotations because you're effectively just a backdrop against the green, and any of those skins is going to stick out. But you can see Slicks trying to trade some shots across there. Him, Louise, and Rifla have done very well, and actually, Louise is going to find that one on the side, so they got the player down, and nobody else is near him. That's the negative of taking those risks or taking kind kind of those long rotations at time. If you get caught out and you get down, these players are all good enough to convert on that, and they're able to secure the elimination. So very well done by the Become Legends trio. And honestly, I'm becoming a lot more of a fan of watching these three work together. I don't think they've been trioing for a super long time, as far as I know. I'm pretty sure Larice just recently converted over to actually playing kind of on the PC track this time. As far as I remember, he's somebody who's really prominent, more so on the mobile console track. But the fact that they're playing so well together, I've always been a fan of Rifla individually, but now we're going to hop on board with that first place team for ZR, Nate and Kha'Zix in a fight over here on the side and trying to resolve it quickly. Some crash pads coming out, which to me indicates this player just wants to get out of dodge and disengage. And Kha'Zix says, well, two can play that game. You can try and get away, but I'm going to close that gap. A great shot coming out there from the Epic Pump Shotgun, and they're just going to chase him down. Shakedown coming through as well. A little bit of an obnoxious fire trap there, but that's all it's going to be, is a little bit obnoxious, and a good job also getting the 200 pump there on the bottom. You can see Kha'Zix has won the first game of the FNCS qualifier, 2 FNCS in a row. So, making sure he probably feels pretty good about that, carrying the momentum with him, knowing that he's able to get a little bit of consistency, because he's someone who, I don't want to say he's always been on like the outside looking in, because he has some pretty decent top placements, but he's not someone who immediately pops to mind if you say, hey, who's one of the best players in Europe? You don't generally think, well, oh, obviously Kha'Zix. It's like, no, there's so many other players who come to mind before that, but he's been putting up really good results.
Yeah, and he has a strong trio of Nate being the FNCS Duo champion. They did really well in the Omar Cup. They've been doing really well in the Chompers Champions Cup, coming into second place back in June. A team that I've been rooting for is Thomas HD, trying to get off the map a little bit here with only 38 points. But again, this is only game 5. We have so many more games to go, and we have a completely other day of action here for you here at the FNCS broadcast booth. And on Oz Flick and Thomas, we talked about it already. Thomas being someone who has some great shots, who is a fragger in his own right, but sliding into the role of the in-game leader. That is going to be a factor going forward to seeing like how these roles kind of, evolve as time goes on. And sometimes we've been seeing that as well in the NAE side of Booga, going from an in-game leader, going back to fragger. So many people are trying to find that chemistry, and we're seeing some great chemistry right now. Shio talked about all the science, and when it comes down to it, it's about being hot at the right opportunity and maintaining that heat.
And that's what it's all about. As you can see, we pan away from the Dutch trio who set up at the Authority and had it basically uncontested the entire time, over to Jimpin, Fevies, and Milo, who honestly we've seen have a really hard end of it so far. They were fought away from both Slurpee and down at the Fortia. They've been caught a number of times on the outside looking in, and right now trying to make one of kind of like the scavenger rotations. It seems like they're just content to get whatever they can off of the sides. But right now, a number of players rotating late through Stark, seeing again whatever they can get left over, because sometimes that's one of the few places on the map where there's going to be a couple of good things left over generally. But right now, our number one team caught in a duel towards the outside, and go ahead, get your bingo cards out, because we got another storm fight going on. But it looks like they're going to take advantage of it. 4ZR getting it down right there. They're going to get the shakedown, reveal where those enemies are, and Cartoon will be the first one to fall, as Nate is going to continue the pressure. The opponent hiding in the cone and just trying to get away from this, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the rotations, they're so familiar, and that's why you're seeing so many of these squads trying to consistently draw alpha or make sure they get that POI that they're so familiar with. And you mentioned teams already trying to scramble and find a different one, and it's only game 5 out of the 12. So you're going to try to figure out, is it worth staying on here as Amplify, ADN, and Matzo here have themselves a situation as they're looking for the pinch here, setting up on some high ground opportunities here, as Amplify does get one already, a victory royale for this trio, and they're looking a way to climb up the leaderboards, and they're just sitting in the top 3. So this is our top 3 trio right now. A nice 2-piece for Amplify as he's amplifying the damage output and racking in some nice eliminations for the trio, and that's going to be a 3-pointer right there, and already getting closer and closer. Some interesting names at the top 3 as we're going to go on. We have Kenzix, 4ZR, Nate at number 1, iDrop and Vettel and Star 6 at number 2, and of course in 4th place is Mongrel, Tayson, and Mitra, but already they were taken out of this fight by the 5th place team going into this game, Alunef, Moraine, and Jaspe. In 6th place is Advise, Jachu, and Paco, who've been doing really well, and of course, the new fans of Sundown from Building Legends of Rifla, Slicks, and Larice, who have been very intimate in playing with each other. They were teammates in the LAP FNCS trio, so they've been coming in a year long of engagements, romanticized and unfolding in a beautiful way here in today's FNCS.
Interesting. I'm trying to figure out which events then, or if I'm thinking of a different player in terms of Larice, but the Become Legends trio has honestly been very impressive, and you can see a nice little 3-2-1 coming out there. Are they able to finally convert on it? The 54 white tag coming through, and that's Prago going down on the opposite side. You're going to try and collapse here. They're doing a good job making sure they close it, and again, line it up. I would have preferred, again, to have seen the pump shotgun shot coming through, but seems like they're not overly worried by that Storm Surge coming out right now, but I mean, honestly, a really good job of making sure you just catch that player unaware. We talk about just not doing the absolute minimum and covering your side when you're rotating. Kind of falls into that regard. They're going to have more than enough materials to just tunnel their way in right to the edge and take whatever surplus from that they want.
I am worried at their weapons. I did see a green pump shotgun, and that is going to be a big-time no-no in id game, considering your damage output's going to be very minimal, as Arturo with some nice damage output, a team that's trying to make their way from the back of the leaderboard as they take out Hellraiser down. So it's interesting to seeing different teams in different spaces here. Last time we saw them out there near Lazy Lake, but Artur, Cammy, and Roxo are doing the best going down south, and we've been seeing this entire time. Teams getting gatekeep. So it's important to try to sneak your way in without getting attention. And looks like this team is trying to be very opportunistic here and taking some shots. And sometimes you got to do that, though, to let the team turtle up so you can have yourself a free rotation. Taking a look here, we have Moraine, Jaspe, who have basically, with Lunef, taking over Stark Industry, going up against Thomas, Anas, and Flick.
And I do want to apologize. I was totally confusing Larice with a different player. So going across, not somebody who come from the console mobile track, somebody who had duoed with Bella EU before, somebody who we've seen both at the top in solos and duos, a little bit more of a passive player, somebody who would generally play kind of for placement. So I think it makes sense him rotating into this trio, and they have had a lot of experience going on together. So just a little bit of a misspeak and correction going on there, confusing him with Leroy, who is somebody who played over on the NA East side in console and mobile and recently made the switch. So just wanted to get that correction going through here, as now we can see Moraine, Leneuf, and Jaspe, who, again, have done a really good job in terms of maintaining control over the lobbies as we rotate into the 5th and 6th circle. They're not always able to maintain control of the high ground all the way to the end, but the fact that in almost every single one of the games they've been at the top or contesting for it at 5th and 6th circle means they're executing on their game plan incredibly well, and it's turning into a top performance from them so far. But now on board here, Thomas HD, Anas, and Flick trying to get in on this lobby focus as a team is being held right on the edge here, and you can see the number of tags coming through. Will they be able to convert it into anything?
There it is. There's the conversion right there on Mods. Mods goes down as the lobby spray comes in, and Thomas, sticking true to his style, goes in and cleans it up with a snipe, and out goes the gas can. So that grass right there is going to catch fire here, and the rest of the lobby is now participating in. That's Jasper's trio on the next side. The neighbors are not being too neighborly against this squad up north, and Thomas is going to be able to clean up and get one. But man, that is going to be the most deadliest thing in trios, ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever seen it on a competitive stage. Avoiding the lobby focus from multiple teams can cause you to use up so many resources. So even if you survive, you're going to be in Shambles Town. You're going to go ahead and check right into that Shamble Hotel, and you're going to have to find a way out, because once you check in, boy, oh boy, there's only one exit, and that is the lobby door. So now, Exponential, Astro, and Mexi, who did really well in the last game, are sitting in a very tight spot now, looking for some more opportunities, because they're only barely 5 above Storm Surge Sundown, but they did get a nice tag here.
Yeah, and a down coming through from Astro Exponential, adding his own to it. They will clean that up, so a nice little executed push there, and they had already had plenty of utility in terms of shields, white HP, and even a couple peppers hanging out in there for rotation. So the fact that they're going to be able to pick up all of this, have their choice at what they want to take, and additionally now, because they're already inside the zone with all of these spare materials here, they can opt to tunnel out, and depending on if they pull that 5th zone as now we head into that half and half phase, kind of transitioning from the mid game into the start of the late game, they could have a ton of extra space here. We'll see now where that 5th zone ends up being. As you can see, Razon and Noah directly underneath there. We have ADN, Matzo, and Amplify. And again, they're not necessarily directly in zone, but they have enough excess mats there where if they wanted to tunnel at least partially the way to get a better angle, they could. But right now, Razon and Noah Riley really need to avoid the lobby focus. They're trying to turn it on a Matzo and Amplify above them, but I think the more realistic thing is to aim at the team who is below them, who is only a duo. We'll see if it ends up coming out.
And this is going to be a very interesting in-game, ladies and gentlemen. We're seeing the chasms that's happening. We saw Antu earlier in the broadcast stuck in this ravine as ADN, Matzo, and Amplify are trying to not only avoid that lobby focus, but Doom's mystical bomb from Aqua down below, and that gives them the ability to get away. As you see, they throw the bomb, and they rotate on the very bottom left of the screen there. That was a very smart rotation using that distraction of Doom's mystical bomb. But like I said, this is going to be a very interesting in-game considering that Vettel right here and iDrop and Star 6 are sitting at height. And usually in trios, the play for height happens around the 6th zone. And at that moment, just like Mongrel did, you have to be careful as some nice beams and big-time 2 points right there, eliminations from Vettel's beams happen. You have to be careful if you're at height for those shockwaves play, because that is how Mongrel was able to secure a victory royale with an epic nice one, as Noah Riley picks up an elim on Artor.
And we've talked about having favorable locations for the end games where it's not too stressful for the players, only really having that one Stark zone that's had a number, and even then it went straight down. Well, the Gorgeous Gorge rotation is about as bad as it gets as opposed to Stark when it comes to moving zones. There's so many changes of verticality down and up. Now we're going to go over the Sentinel's graveyard, and there's going to be a number of rotations that will be used out. Right now, hopping on board here with Floki, Clement, and Nazor, the French trio, trying to find a little bit of room. Almost, look at the bottom right-hand corner right now. Every single one of those circles is away from where the zone needs to go. Nobody has priority, so everyone is trying to move and find whatever space they can. Nacor finds one in Kiriachi, finds a second in Rotary. He says, get out of here. My space, my area. I'm going to get the one who plays for placement. They fall just outside of that top 16 where you're looking for. And right now, every player who goes down, or every full trio who goes down, will then result in an additional placement point coming through. You see Yzips clearing up. That'll be the 17th one falling. Razon also falls there as well, so keep an eye on that, as the high ground is currently belonging to our number 1 team on the backside, but the shockwaves are coming out from a contestant, and that's going to be the team who is contesting over at Stark Industries, who forced away Tayson and Mongrel, and Jaspe will go down and bite the dust for ZR, get some revenge, and will also hold the high ground as we switch on over to the low ground, where Noah Riley is the solo running against the Dutch trio. ADN, Matzo, and Amplify doing everything they can, popping those spicy fish and remaining at the front, trying to claw their way up the leaderboard.
Doing their best right now. This is in 3rd place. Train Hard squad, the trio, is doing so well together. The Peppers is popped, and that's going to give you increased mobility for about a minute or so. So Amplify, you can essentially take height, and even though they're low on mats, so that's not going to be an option for them at the moment. So now they're going to stick to the low ground as it pushes north. So this is going to be interesting. The elevation is going to go down and a little bit up. So it's a little bit of a baby valley right now that to navigate. But look at all the real estate that Amplify and his squad does have. Already they got a victory royale, losing one of their members in a 2v3. So all the chaos is happening, and with a nice tarp here that they're headed in. This is a 3-box tarp. They're only not using the floor here. A nice opportunity. And I'm surprised here, Sundown, that there's no one on their left and right, as a lot of people are either contesting height or stuck on a mid-ground tarp. But now, as I say that, Amplify does get hit right in the face. Is going to go ahead and pop a spicy fish with a spicy elimination on Noah, and things are getting spicy as he gets a second piece on Nate, and he gets the siphon. Amplify, what are you doing? You're popping off. Oh my goodness.
He was able to find the siphon just as it ticked over, and the spicy fish being the difference. But now, look, you have Vato and Airwalks up on the high ground, and if there's veterans who can close in this situation when tarped out from the side, they're going to be able to do it. Another French trio we haven't heard enough of, but the Become Legends trio is also down on the low ground. But don't forget Vettel and crew. Vettel, iDrop, and Cycric have been climbing up the leaderboard just quietly all day, making every single endgame, and he's still sitting on 45 plus wood. He's in the top right-hand corner. You have Thomas HD in the bottom right-hand corner. His entire trio is still up as we close in on the top 10. 21 players remaining, 9 trios left. The 8th circle is closing. We're now going to the 9th circle with still 9 trios remaining. It all goes to a close in match number 5 here.
And the question is, ladies and gentlemen, does Height have enough mat endurance, the stamina to hold on? Leo, Vato, Airwax is doing their best, and we're seeing Thomas HD on your bottom right with Anas tunneling in, doing their best as well. Vettel doing really well on the low ground. So you have a picture at height, a picture in mid-game, and mid-ground, and low ground. As Thomas, he gets shockwave out, but height does go down. But Thomas has to make his way in. Thomas is doing his best, and he does get in. He does have a lot of mats at the opportunity to hold on as much as possible. As we're taking a look at the zone, it's going to keep going down a little bit into a valley, and that's going to be an opportunity, though, for Thomas to pick up anybody that goes down in shambles. As iDrop gets dropped. Vettel now on the ropes as well, but he gets a big-time elimination in himself and gets that HP, but Vettel has to do his most, and down goes Vettel with a big-time elim by himself. So now here we go. All the chaos is unfolding right here, Sundown. Vado is still alive, as you mentioned, but Thomas and Anas, now it's Thomas all by himself. It's a 1v2 situation. Can Thomas clutch it out? Now it's a 1v2. Definitely as the third member, Leo, goes down.
He wins. He wins. He has the zone. He has the zone. He has the HP. Vato can't work back through the old builds. We talked about them controlling high ground and doing it so well, but you run out of utility. You run out of opportunities. You run out of mats. And Thomas HD, recently signed to Gamma, shows why he is one of the absolute best. Saves the shockwave for the key moment, goes back through the old build, takes height, and gives himself the automatic height advantage, adding on to his 7 eliminations, 3 more from the team, 25 for the victory royale, 35 points there, and we have to hear what the analysts have to say about that one.
Guys, I'm pretty sure, Sancho? Is this your prediction? I'm getting word. Yes, Sancho, this is, what's that? Reese is not that good? Oh, okay, I'll tell him. All right, buddy. Okay, bye. Hey, guys, Reese, I'm sorry. Apparently Sancho's team picked up the VR. Apparently they picked up VR. What's going on here?
They picked up the Victory Royale. They're an amazing team, right? There are a lot of people's top picks to go through, but they're 7th still. There's still time to go up, you know. Maybe ruin it. But they're doing great. However, they are not at that first place slot yet. Come on, guys. Come on. Victor Allen.
Yeah, we have to talk. Sancho, you might actually be not happy about this because you see it's still... I can't. It's Kenzix, Forziar, and Nate still holding on. We are game number 5 here, and they have done this for 5 games in a row. We still have 1 left today. We have another 6 tomorrow, and yet they're still holding on to that number 1 spot. Now, again, it is top 15 that will be pushing through, but Shy, I don't know what Reese is on, okay? But maybe we all need a little bit of that.
No. Listen, there is trouble in the waters for this trio up top. This is the second time where they're kind of dropping a game and people are catching up. We saw the differential there just being 2 points now instead of 10. So third time might be the charm for someone to overtake them. Still very impressive that they're holding on. The same thing, though, with Lanouf, Moraine, Jaspe. Although these guys are starting to contest people, dropping a few games, they're holding on to that top 10. They're holding on to quals as of right now. Anas, Flick, and Thomas HD obviously coming up over there at 7th place.
Indeed, you can see in 11th, Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson with the Victory Royale, but only placing in the 11th slot right now. Still very, very good, but this was something that they completely dominated over in the FNCS Warm-Up Cup 2 weeks ago, as they had it completely uncontested. And we thought they may have it uncontested, and by it, I mean Stark Industries, uncontested completely, but in Game 2 and onwards, they've been contested every single game. So we'll see if they can clutch up today and the rest of tomorrow to get that first place slot, but they're kind of slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, from the outside peeking in, we have a few teams who are on that 30 points overall, the 16th place threshold. Remember, you have to be at the top 15 after the end of these 2 days to be able to qualify for those heats. So far, though, those 15 teams do not want to give it up, Zeke.
Dude, they don't. And we saw this the same for this team, right? Flick, Thomas, and Anas, excuse me. They were on the bubble. They were on the edge of being pushed out of top 15. And they say, look, you know what? Our boy Sancho believes we've got to go full send. We got to walk this back, right? We have to break down what happened for this game. Why have they come out on top?
Let's talk about it. It's all about those rotations. From right now, let's look at exactly how things broke down with these guys, where they land. It's over at Dirty Docks. Thomas actually ends up going down, so that star player taken out over at the tower. But there's a free reboot van. It's uncontested. These guys can easily get him back up. They do, and they find some free loot to start the game off with.
Indeed, you can see them picking up the reboot van straight away, and they're uncontested, like Shao said, at Dirty Docks. There's a ton of loot here. If my memory serves me correct, 39 chests. That could not be correct, but I think it does. And that's plenty of loot for 3 people, even rotating a little bit late in this zone, to actually end up picking up and continuing off with the rest of the game. And clearly it works out for them.
Yeah, they had a lot of time, too, so upgrades were possible. They shared shields with the Chug Splash, which makes them even carry more. And past that, there's cars available at Dirty Docks. So we're using them in a very innovative fashion, putting wood ramps below so they could climb mountains faster. They take away all that extra time it takes to get to these positions, and that's why they get the center super fast.
Indeed, and notice Shao said center. I noticed that's what you said, the center of the zone. Look here in the bottom right, you can see exactly where we were, and this gives them 4th zone. Looking back at their other games where they weren't so successful, they actually ended up not being in the center of that 3rd zone, being way too far out in the edge, right? And this makes a lot of players focus you while you try to rotate in, and it also takes a ton of time to rotate into the 4th zone. This uses your materials, this uses your heals, and just ends up scuffs you altogether. This game, they won it, and they based themselves up in center of 3rd zone.
Yeah, but when you have center, sometimes you don't get that 5th zone after the 4th. They didn't this time, but they had that utility available from their loot pads. Use one crash pad, base up. Storm Surge was one thing that Reese saw over a few games. That was their issue. So over here is actually where they get it on dynamic rotation. They actually base up beforehand, before everyone else starts moving, and then shoot free bodies out of the sky. Actually, Thomas picks up one on Fort. Easy knock up over there, but then after that they use a shockwave to actually catch up and play the end game. Obviously you saw Thomas break it down all the way towards the very end, but innovatively basically using cars, shockwaves, basing up when other people don't, getting shots off, gives Thomas the opportunity to get to this point to clutch. And Reese, if it's Thomas in a 1v1, who else is really beating him?
Well, clearly not Vato, right? At this point. Vato's a phenomenal player, but just the position that Thomas put himself in here, it was just never going to work, right? He has max, I think he either had max or 80 white HP there, which is a ton, while Vato below had to go through all those old builds, get stuck in the congestion, and I think he only took 2 ticks to zone, and that was him out, and that's an easy victory there for Thomas HD, clutching up as a solo.
Dude, there you go. They're still in it. They're saying, guys, we can make it. We're shooting for that top 15. You'll like to see it. Now, of course, it is time. We get ready to move into the last game of day number 1 here in EU. Sancho. Let's hope you boys can take it back away. Let's get it, boys.
Let's hope so, of course. It's all fun and games when it comes to prediction. Trying to spice things up. We did see a spicy fish used in Game 5. This is Game 6, the midway point of the 12. And we have tomorrow 6 games at the same time, same bat channel. So if you're wondering when that's going to be, whenever you tuned in, there'll be games here at the FNCS Trios. Later on today, we'll have NA East. But now it is time to kind of put a kind of bow on this day here, Sundown. And the question is, for the players that are, new on the leaderboard that a lot of people are not recognized, is do you wish that you could have kept playing and to a possible, 4 games to close it out because you're so hot right now, and to have to go to bed and then think about it, and maybe you overthink a situation, and maybe you overextend, or you kind of overthink everything and ruin the momentum that you had going. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of trios can regain their momentum or find a new breath of life going in.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they already played the semifinal today, so I think with the games from that, plus the 6 games here, that's already a ton of Fortnite being played going through, upwards of 16 games, but brilliant shots coming out from Aqua, just downing Mr. Savage right away. We talk about just that team fire and the pressure that they're able to convert on. Siphon coming over right away as Reason is able to pick that one up. A brilliant wall replace into the arch edit. Will flip it back for the peanut butter edit, and Benji goes down like this was a box fight. No problem there as Aqua gets the final tag as well, and he says 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. Not sure what the cricket equivalent is of something about bowling. I'm sure Resub will probably correct me, but brilliantly done there from Aqua. But it feels like finally his opportunity to really stamp a claim on it. We've seen Reason do it. We've seen Noah Riley do it. But Aqua, he's the dual World Cup champion. We've seen him time and time again, the first FNCS trio champion as well. Really need to put his stamp on this tournament so far, on this week 1 qualifier, and he got it right there. All 3 of them falling to his hands in complete control of Doom's domain in game number 6 going over to this trio.
And you got to say, the way their day started sundown with Savages and Benji and Lechi were able to quickly eliminate them so fast. But I would have to say, throughout the day, we've been watching that Titan fight matchup kind of unfold, that the day goes to them, especially winning game 6. It's almost as you're only as good as your last envelope, and that last envelope is going to have a big time clout class right to close it out, and it's going to be interesting to see how does Benji, Lechi, and Savage kind of recover from this. They are very strong players, elite players. They are elite, you know. But do they have that mental fortitude to kind of, or that pride, will that pride, you know, sneak up on them and kind of let them not listen to Reason, you know? So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds in day 2 for Benji. But their day is done. They're going to have to think about it for another 12. I don't even know if these guys get sleep, 8 hours or so. Who knows?
I mean, we've seen just how much some of these guys sleep, but right now on board here, we talked about a Kiriachi, Stormy, right? We've seen them be successful in a number of these fights over at Slurpee, and right now, putting some pressure down, but have already lost Rotary. It isn't even 2v2 as Stormy, right, is sitting on elimination as well, so looking trying to clean up this fight, will be able to convert that knock right away. No shakedown coming through, but a good 160 tag. Again, we talk about making sure you're maximizing the damage, but now, can they close out the 2v1? Players shockwaving in, which seems to me to signal a third party wanting to get involved in this, which could make it dicey. Yes, it is. You can see another team is opting to close the gap right away. So Kiriachi and Stormy, right, rightly so, backing away and being like, no, we're not going to get stuck in this. And they're just going to look to see if they can't catch an advantage. And he does. Insta wall replace into that triangle edit, able to close, and we're going to hop right on over to that Stark Industry initial fight. We talked about Mongrel going at it, and they're all just dropping on his head. They said, nope, we're not going to lose the 50-50 because we're going to bring everyone to the same chest. But unfortunately, that is going to cost them the 50-50 for what is the 3rd time in a row. I believe it's the 3rd time in a row.
Yes.
They've now gone down over at Stark. So really, really rough for that trio.
And I just can't believe that Moraine, Jaspe, and Lunef made that change really late in the game, and they were in the top 10. They weren't in shambles. They weren't struggling throughout the day. I think they just decided they saw maybe a weakness in the game of Mongrel, Mitro, and Taste, and decided, let's go ahead and test that out. This is the opening week 1. We got so many weeks of action here in the FNCS trios that you could experiment. And you know what's going to be interesting? The top 15, they do qualify, but they're still allowed to continue to compete, and they still allowed to kind of condition their drop spot. And that's going to be a very dangerous trio to deal with throughout the entire time. So we're just seeing the seeds of a rivalry being born. We already seen in the NA East rivalries between Bizzle and Zate. Now we have a rivalry between Jaspe and Mongrel's trio.
Yeah, and you can see they're really trying to push forward and make a stamp on it. And we've seen it before. The entirety of Season X, MMB, Mitro, Mongrel, and Benji were able to just stamp out Mega Ball. Nobody came anywhere near them. And then the second they get into finals, somebody showed up with a game plan, add in a little bit of a brute distraction, and all of a sudden you lose 2 out of 6 games, and you're not going to be able to take away the top. And right now, I would say particularly, if you go into a 12-game hyper-competitive format against the top 0.01 in EU, I don't think you will get a major POI uncontested all 12 games. I think at some point in time, some somebody is going to come over and drop on you if you're having a ton of success. Or more importantly, particularly if you're at one of those mythic POIs, teams get desperate. They're like, hey, we're not finding the loot we need to find, particularly with the change in chest. If you're not getting the loot that you're looking for and you're not able to kind of get the opportunity, knowing there's guaranteed chest, knowing that kind of appetizer that the vault is there, it's going to bring people over. So yes, we saw just ahead of time, Jafse, Lanouf, and Moraine, they controlled high ground in games 1 and 2. Go back and watch the VOD. The players on high ground in 6th and 7th zone has been them every time, regardless of where they were dropping. So the fact that they then want to take the fight to what some people say is one of the best trios in the world, but honestly, I think Mitro, Mongrel, and Tayson are exploitable early. If you get in their head, if you're able to get on them and they lose a 50-50 drop and they don't necessarily get the loadout or the shields and you're able to get them 1 or 2 rounds in a row, I don't think they're necessarily capable as a newly formed trio of setting up a game plan to overcome it. You saw it this round. They all tried to land together. They tried to go like, okay, we'll just like dive bomb the chest and maybe one of us will get it and the other one's a pickaxe. They lost because the other players had better drops and got to the solo weapons and collapsed down there. So the question is, going into tomorrow, now that all of your momentum has been stifled, can you go back, can you game plan together, and can you come up with a way to execute better than the team who has now forced you out of your drop spot 3 times in a row, and the last 2 times, it wasn't even close.
Yeah, and that is what's interesting as well as Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson, they got people all over the YouTube community, a lot of VOD reviews, a lot of people looking at exactly how to do it. I mean, it reminds me of the days going way back into the lore of Aiden, figuring out how to solve the puzzle of Nick Merckx. And no doubt, Aiden had a playbook to take out Nick Merckx in Tilted Towers. I'm talking about old school times here, but you're right. We have some elite players going down early. And the thing is as well is I feel like in the EU region, there hasn't been any changes in trios, volatile changes as much as NA East. And now with that opportunity, that could be an option. I mean, that trio has been together for a long time, ever since FNCS Trios was announced here for the season. So now we're seeing the #1 spot now being kind of just shaken down as Snap Miro Dog and Miro and Snapper take out the first place. One of them, wow, unbelievable, as already first place is taken down. Of course, this is only first place in the halftime portion here. As we're taking a look into this matchup, Kenzix, 4ZR, and Nate were at 95 points in first. Right behind was Vettel, iDrop, and Star6 with 93 points. And of course, Amplify, AD, and Amatsu, who have 1 victory out with 75 points. So there is a big-time gap between first and second, but it's going to be closed a little bit more, knowing that our first-place team is now out of this fight. And it's interesting, Sundown, is that we've seen a lot of people getting caught in that Weeping Woods area. You know, we saw Benji Fishy get caught out there, and now we're seeing Kenzix and his squad getting caught out there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not nicknamed Wolverine Woods for no reason. You know that Predator is lurking by. It's not just him. We've seen a number of people set up those quick advantages and a really good job executing right there. And one thing I do kind of want to talk about as we see Jaspe, Lanouf, and Moraine, they're just on the outside looking in. Again, we've talked about it. They were top 6 coming into this game, but they've opened up an opportunity now with Nate going down and the fact that they've been relying on the car rotation. The one thing is if you're using a truck or using 2 cars, somebody is solo going out there, and that's what happened to Nate. He ended up late on that rotation and got picked off, so I'm assuming 4ZR and Kenzix are still around somewhere. But this has opened up a huge window for Vettel, iDrop, and Star6, who have been surprisingly consistent. They've actually had the best overall placement average, 6.8, and they're second in terms of elims at 5.8. So they're going to have an opportunity to take this top spot here. And as we hop on board, it's actually 4ZR has been downed as well, so it's all going to be up to Kenzix. However, again, we've talked about it, kind of those amazing solo efforts. The boys did a great breakdown of Mr. Savage's effort there. Nate had one earlier where he was solo from super early on and ended up getting, I believe it was a top 8 or a top 9 placement. So Kenzix, with the 1 flopper and with the truck, has a little bit of leeway, but, I mean, this situation's looking grim.
Looking very grim as the Reaper is knocking on Kenzix's door at the moment. Only a flopper here maybe gets this siphon right here with this elimination. No, he doesn't. And that's just not going to be good as he does get the siphon from that elim, but now he's only sitting 54 above, and now he has to fight in this, and this is going to be, wow! Milo gets taken out so quickly with a nice flick of the wrist. The pump shotgun goes through, and Kenzis is not done yet. He's like, hey, I heard my boy Reese is voting for me, is rooting me on, and I'm going to go ahead and carry the torch like Mr. Savage did. I mean, that's the beauty of the trios game. One player could hold on and get that placement points. One player could clutch up. One player could do it all and win a victory royale. So it's not yet over. He's going to have the opportunity to go over the top, but oh my goodness, out's going some more shots in, and we're going to get some more storm fights, and he's going to be like, wait a minute, how dare you, but how dare you, bang, get eliminated yourself and get rewarded with a legendary pump shotgun. Kha'Zix, my man, what are you doing?
So well done from him there. And the key, the start of that fight, the first knock that he ended up getting, he didn't get Siphon going over, so he had the flopper in his back pocket, never had to use it, and then he was pushing aggressively. He wanted those players. He wanted that 1v2, and you could tell the other ones didn't. While that was going on, Rifla was able to pick up Lenouf on the side, so now you can see that he's going to be actually pushing in towards this duo of Moraine on the side, just looking to get shots on him. There's Jaspe over there, but he's going to be getting closed in on. They're all in a poor situation. He has some excess shields, but right now we're going to swing on over. You have Clement, Floki, and Nazor in a fight right now. They're going to pick up Mona's also on the other side, and they have them pinned against the outside. I would definitely assume that the French trio is going to be able to pick this one up. They've been extremely efficient in their fights, and the new kids on the block have had a tough time so far today, Sancho.
Yeah, man, they started off very hot. They were in the top 5, and now they're just slowly slipping down the leaderboard. It's just a matter of the adjustments that are coming out, and at the same time, the marathon that it is already, they've already competed in round 2, and round 2 happened just in the early mornings here in the West Coast side here in America, and all that unfolded 3 hours to getting yourself into the top 33, and that in itself is a fight. So seeing all these trios compete is a win in itself. We're like 0.01, like you mentioned, Sundown, of the top high-quality play here of the FNCS competitive, and they're all represented right now. Thomas HD doing really well. We did see the zone did favor their side as they do land in dirty docks, and we had a nice replay package showing how they were able to recover despite going down very, very early. So looking at it right now, Anas has a strong weapon output. He has the purple shotgun. He has some harpoons, which we haven't seen too much of the harpoon play, but in harpoons and trios allows teams to kind of scorpion their way and grab loot that's out in the distance. Of course, as always, shouts to Clay Staling with the Clay Classic to being a very offensive. But also we saw Noosh out there in the DreamHack was able to get some nice pressure, being able to break through fresh builds with the harpoon. So it's going to be interesting to see how Tomas uses it. I think on that queue, I believe he may have dropped it, but still, it's something to keep an eye out for as we're going forward.
And Kha'Zix going down there to Joel in the side. So our number 1 leaders going into match number 6 have been upset. There will be no more points taken from them. Just the miraculous double elims that came out from Kha'Zix and his push there, putting him up to 97 points. But it opens the door for everyone else to kind of close that gap. Again, don't forget 25 points for that victory royale as the format just reminded you. Each elimination coming through as a point. So if you're able to push forward, again, in trios, generally you'll see at minimum you'll have 5 or 6 eliminations coming out from that top team. Seeing 30-point swings come through is not unreasonable, making anybody who is in kind of that top 10 right now right within striking distance of that number 1 spot as we get a wider look at the lobby.
Yeah, during the Ninja Battles broadcast, Ninja joined the cast of Bala and Monster D-Face, and Ninja mentioned that in a trio competition, you have to get elims. Considering that placement points kind of dole out until 17th, that is a long time. And sometimes that happens during the moving rotations of the moving circles. And at that point, we already seen it in the opening of the broadcast. We had teams make it so far into the top 20 and already in rotating circles, and you could walk away with 0 points considering that you just played for placements. And that is going to be such a deflating factor. You make it so far, you make it to end game, and you get nothing. You look at your leaderboard standings and you get a goose egg, and that is when the mental fortitude is tested, and you have to figure out, can we just stick to the game plan, stick to our rotations, stick to our landing, stick to what we know we've been doing best in all these cash cups and all these scrims, or do we change it up? And already, we're already seeing the adjustment from Jaspe and his trio able to bully out Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson. but this fight is now bowling out between the two. We're seeing shots going in between two different neighbors. It's two metal bases as Paco is getting beamed and Jachu does go down as Raxo Came and Artor are getting some nice opportunities here. Again, the top 15 get advanced, and this is one of those squads that are just in the top 20. So this is still important, even though you're not going to play for the number one spot. There's still so many big-time matches that are happening all over the match and all happening on the leaderboard right now.
Yeah, and this action is explosive, as you see there. The gas can into the double cars will go over there, but now hopping on board here, iDrop, Sturzix, Vettel, the team who is in second place coming in this match, picking up an elimination there, doing a good job to try and occupy as much spot as you can. You can see right now, honestly, so many teams are packed in to this western side that where this fifth zone pulls is going to play a major factor in what happens next, and they're directly on top of it, so they're going to use all of these excess resources and just build out as much of a tunnel as they can. They've been playing low ground almost exclusively, so don't expect them to go up and challenge. The question is what action happens around them, as we can see Kami and his teammates on the low ground trying to put some pressure up onto Jam Side and Co, but they're doing a good job at rebuffing them, as this rotation is going to be really awkward as they have to go not only a little bit uphill, but they're kind of pinned against it to where the other teams are going to have a constant firing range on them pretty much the entire time. However, they do have the two shockwaves, so anticipate them using those to force everyone up.
And it looked like it was iDrop that was able to eliminate Raison right there. So we're seeing the top two inflict damage to the 20th here in the leaderboard standings, as we're seeing right there that was a strong squad of Aiken still up doing their deed. Now we're seeing everybody kind of jockey position, trying to find an opportunity. The Catacombs are all coming out. ADN, Umpafly, Matzo, a strong showing today, racking up a victory royale, sitting in the top 3, and they have the ability just to close the gap a little bit. It's still going to be so vital. Game 6 is just as important as the next one that's coming up. We have 6 games tomorrow, and you want to go in having that good time feeling. You want to put your head to the pillow, knowing that you did really well, knowing that you got a victory royale. And the ADN, Amplify, and Matzo, who no one's picked here at the broadcast booth. No one has picked them to be the winners of the first opening round 3 here of week 1. They could do it. I mean, they've been so consistent, Sundown. You've been saying they've been sneaking up the leaderboard ever so quietly, and sometimes it's the silent ones that you have to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen Amplify and Matzo for a long time. They've been playing together for a while. I think the addition of ADN really makes sense, and the fact that they've stuck to this same game plan and been able to execute it. However, with that being said, Amplify getting picked off on that rotation there and putting them into this 2v3 situation in most fights, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but we are also getting into that placement threshold territory. You can see 17 trios remaining, so next one's going through will start resulting in points. 42 players remaining. Slicks picking up Roscoe. Anas going down there. Louise getting the confirmation as well. 40 players remaining, but still the trios not quite ticking over. Last game's winner losing another player as Anas will go down. The pressure continuing to remain on Thomas HC's shoulders, as now we get a wide here in ADN trying to work up the backside of the zone, looking to sneak in and find whatever pumps they can on this layer, and a brilliant pick up there onto Airwalks, but it wasn't his knock, so no points and no siphon coming through, just the excess materials. He's going to be forced to burn his chug splashes, hit a crash pad, and doing a really good job of utilizing the tools he's given. The question is, can he land the shot on any of these players coming down in a brilliant one there? That one will be his siphon. It's all going to be on ADN's shoulder as Matzo goes down, and he catches a ton of AR bullets as soon as he opens up that edit.
It's so rare to see mobility recycles. Down goes ADN. That ends the run for our 3rd place at the moment. Again, a cumulative leaderboard going into day 2. So as the Storm pushes back inside, as Clement now and Floki are really heating up at the right moment with some nice edit down hits, some strong hits with that pump shotgun. The range on the pump shotgun is very deceiving. Sometimes you gotta throw your shot, as Thomas HT finally goes down, so that trio is out, as Vato is now getting a big hit on Floki. So Vato is now chasing Clement and Neko through this build as they're working on the ground low. Let's take an overview look here. We're seeing who's at height. We're seeing Vato still on the backside, mid-ground, and we're looking to a new team that hasn't been in-game very much. It's the RCN2 trio up at height, and it's going to favor them, Sundown, because the elevation is going up.
The elevation is going up, but back on board here. They were second place. They're going to be pushing forward that top spot now. It's eye drop, and Stursix doing a good job again, playing hip to hip with each other. Vettel has been down for a while, so these two trying to do whatever they can to salvage this point. This is game number 6, the last one for today, but the halfway point. Don't forget, 6 more games tomorrow. We'll have an hour break after this, and then NA East Grand Final action will kick off. But you can see Miatfo up on the high ground getting a elim confirmed, but then getting knocked. High ground just got knocked down. Both of those players being knocked down signifies that somebody went up either with a shockwave or shot them down, and the distance dropping them will cause them to be self-eliminated. That means high ground is open. Kami was the one who forced that drop going through and will get the elimination credit. But iDrop being too far forward, not connecting to Sturzix, no help coming through, and that's the Become Legends trio capitalizing on that. But Nacor will immediately turn around. It's all on Sturzix to just stay in the match, avoid being eliminated, get as many points possible. There are so many little rats and crevices, so many solos and duos, no complete trios left as everyone is fighting for their final spot and final opportunity in match number 6. Sturzix in first place currently in your top right. Nacor looking to charge up into the top 10 on your bottom right, and everyone else on the wide on the left as Sturzix picks up a huge elimination, pushing him up to 3, gets a first pump shot, can't find the second. A brilliant job while replacing. He says nope, going forward out into the zone, replaces the layer, turns around, misses a key shot, but he finds the 180, pushes him into the top 4 as well. Sturzix showing why his team should be in first place right now.
Sturzix is getting it on at the right moment, heating up for his squad with 112 points. On the bottom right is Nacor, who got a beam on height. So Nacor right now is sitting at height, and you're seeing all the chaos down below as Rifle goes down from Acor. Ator is up, but it is the story of Sturzix, who is all by himself. His squad went down so early. Can he clutch it up in a top 3 situation? Already happy with the points, but the Victory Royale would be that cherry on top. Nacor has everything going his way with a dominant position right now, but Sturzix is not done. He's stirring the pot. It gets a big time. It's a 1v2, and no, it is Nacor, and Sundown applauds the performance seen out here as we close out day 1 here, game 6. Wow, Sundown, wow.
And a brilliant effort from them there. I believe that was 13 eliminations coming through, plus the Victory Royale, 38 points from the French trio. But honestly, we have to give just so much credit to Sturzix and all of the other individuals who we've seen really put on for their trios today. If we're going to talk about a story of what day 1 in EU was, it's those individual and those Herculean efforts that are coming out to really put the rest of your trio on the back, say, don't worry, I got this, and they're carrying into key placement and key elimination points in super clutch moments.
And that's the beauty of trios, man. Your day is not over if you go down. So that was really awesome to see. I cannot wait to see what the boys bring for us. Zeke, Shio, Reese, what you got for us, man?
There you have it. The last game here on day number 1. Don't forget, tomorrow we have 6 more matches. Gentlemen, Vettel, Sturzix, iDrop. They find themselves not the Victory Royale, but they come in second place with an unprecedented 119 points.
It's not the VR. At the end of the day, Zeke, it's the VR in our hearts that they won. They had to win at one point, right? It's sick, though. 119, you were mentioning it. 119 points overall on day 1. Very good pedestal going into day number 2, but anything can happen, Reese.
Indeed, you can see them in that first place slot now. They've had some really, really consistent games. 119 points. That puts them 21 points ahead of Lucky Clement and Nacor. And that's obviously the final game done for today. We still have more going on tomorrow. But right now, that's a big lead. That's a big lead. However, in the warm-up cup, there was an even bigger lead. And it still was really close at the end of the second day. So tomorrow, we really, really could see anything.
Absolutely. I mean, my worries are kind of like looking at Kezik's 4-0 and Nate. If you're having very good, off the day performances where the first 3 days or the first 3 games are very nice, I want to see if tomorrow they can make the next 3 even nicer afterwards, right? 6 more games to go. Anas, Thomas, Flick, these guys also had a win. Amplify, ADN, and Matzo also had a Victory Royale. So no one actually here doubled up today. But all the guys who did win games ended up in that top 15. So very good to see getting those wins, still meaning that you can get close to that qualifying range.
Indeed, and we can see in 10th all the way down to 15th, we see Mongrel Mitro, and Tayson again. I've mentioned them a few times. Benji, Savage, and Lecce. We talked in the early game about all of the times that people were landing in these mythic POIs, Doom's Domain and Stark, and how it's going to be really contested, and how, this is my personal opinion, but the players landing there probably won't be as consistent in terms of their placement. And that is exactly what we're seeing here today.
We do get to see that drop off. Top 15 is only 45 points.